When I started doing all this groundwork, it kind of bothered me a bit more then, but I was a lot less in shape at that point. And I'm glad that, I like to be active, and I like to be getting in better shape, doing our job. This horse sometimes gets kind of silly with her head, and so those are just things that we work on every time we go to working her. See, I want her to quit bumping on me, to tip her head towards me, and let me put this bridle on her, not get so silly about her ears. That's just a little bit of attitude she has. And we just, we get these things, we work on whatever area that they show an issue with, because every day is a little different too. A horse one day may not have a problem with something, and then just something happens, or they just decide they're going to have an issue with it that day. Well, we want to be able to have tools in our toolbox to be able to work through that stuff. And so with her, she's kind of throwing her head around a little bit. I don't want to let her take that head away from me. I want her head to be right here where it's at, and I want to be able to rub all over her and rub all over her until she's good with it. See, like right there, she accepted it, didn't think it was such a bad deal, so I quit her. And it'll be the same way when I take this off. And you see, somebody that's really good at handling horses, they can just ignore that stuff or learn how to get around it. But we don't want to do that. We want to notice that there's something going on there, and we want to be able to address that and have some tools in our toolbox, have some exercises that we can work on that gets that area better. So like right there, she got kind of silly right there, was kind of concerned about that, so I took that back over and around until she lowered her head and relaxed. And so that's the right response. That's how I want her to be every time we go and put a halter on her. A halter, a leader, a halter or bridle or hackamore or whatever. Every time I get on these horses, I want them to stand still. I don't ever want to get on a horse that is walking off or not standing still. And I have found that flexing these horses and having that be the first thing I do on them, that's the first thing I do on them from day one, from ride one. And so it just creates a pattern and a habit. To where I want them to think about, flexing, getting soft before we ever go somewhere. I don't want them to ever think that as soon as I get on them, we're getting on and going somewhere. That's a good way to get somebody in a wreck that maybe is not as confident or can't get in the saddle as well or whatever. I want this horse to think about standing still and let me get in, let me get my feet in the stirrups, let me get in the middle of this horse, and then we walk off. We work on our flexing and walk off relaxed. And so this horse, just like with Cinco,
working on the same things this week, which is just bending at the walk. She's a little stiffer through her body than Cinco is. Just gets a little bit more concerned about life. I'm sure that's, I'm sure when she got hurt, got a couple of those scars, I'm sure she overreacted and put herself in that position to get hurt. But we want to help her work through that, teach her how to be quiet, how to get soft through her body, how to be responsive. And so how we handle these horses, the exercises we do with them, all of that stuff teaches these horses how to be and how to act. And it's a day-by-day process of getting these horses better, teaching these horses some good habits. She trotted off without me asking her right there. She got concerned. We just brought her back down. No big deal. So I don't want to scold her for it, jerk on her. I want to bring her back down and correct her. This type of horse, you certainly don't want to give her a bunch of things to worry about. You just want to ask her and ask her correctly and give her an opportunity to make the mistake and correct her. She's still, she takes, would say, like when we're traveling, she wants to get up and go somewhere. She's still, wouldn't say, she's a bit more aware of what's going on around her, concerned about things a little bit more than Cinco is. And like I said, it's just day by day, you just get that better by building that confidence in these horses, asking these horses consistently and rewarding them when they do what you ask them to do. So we're going to work on a few of these transitions before we work on stopping two rein, and especially with, a horse that can get a little bit more tense through her body. It shows how important doing all these exercises is before I go and picking up on two reins. Like this horse here, she's got a big motor, and somebody that goes and just, if they went to just go and yanking on this horse and stopping them with two reins and all this stuff, you're just going to create a horse that is anxious and worried and very stiff through their body, because we haven't given them a chance to get soft through all these exercises that we do, help them work through those emotions. But I like how, she's starting to get a lot more relaxed. She's getting softer in these circles. She does get up and go somewhere. She moves out, which is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all. Different horses, like Cinco, she's gonna move out in a prettier fashion. She's going to, it's going to be maybe prettier for a show pen, or, everything she does is going to be a bit slower, but it's going to be a lot more maybe correct. And this horse, she's going to have a lot of explosive power. Like she's just going to get out and she can go somewhere. She's going to get out there, for anything you wanted her to do. you know, she's not going to hesitate to get up there and try and get out there, whether it was working a cow or roping or anything. You know, she has, you put your feet on her and she gets up and goes. You know, she's a lot like that, you know, Hickory Holly time mare that we had. She would get up and go, had a lot of try and she'd put a lot of effort into everything she would do, but you did have to build her confidence and kind of teach her how to relax, because she was sure enough, she was ready to get the job done, go somewhere, put a lot of effort in, but she had a big stop. And I think this horse is a lot the same way, to where put my feet on her and we're gonna go somewhere. But I do think that, you know, that she's gonna have a big stop and be able to, you know, I felt that in her when we first started riding her around. Felt that she was gonna have a big stop to her, where she would just kind of, she'd be, because she's driving, you know, she's driving forward, she's going somewhere in this. So that's part of where your stop comes from, is being able to drive up and go somewhere. And so, and we'll just kind of lope around, just kind of let her get some of this energy out a little bit, just kind of go somewhere. Coming up, not sure if it's next week, but coming up, we're gonna have some more steering exercises that we're gonna do. That's gonna help them steer better and kind of get them thinking about controlling themselves at that lope a little better. And so we're gonna work on that coming up pretty quick. Right now, it's really just having her move out, wanting her to stay at that lope, and when I ask her to come down to that walk, you know, expecting her to. See, a lot of that throwing her butt out there, and all of that is just stiffness through her body. And so the more we work on just these bending at the walk and these different softening exercises we're gonna do, to where she has to figure out how to regulate her own emotions in order to get soft. Like, it's her job to get soft. We're gonna put her in a position to where that's the result we're looking for, but it's her job to get soft, regulate her emotions in order to get to that spot. Every horse is a little different, so we're going to we might work on one exercise longer than we work on it with another. It's like with this horse, I'm going to spend a lot more time doing this exercise here, because, you know, she gets off of it when I put my leg, she gets off of that bridle and comes back to me when I put my leg on her. And when I'm out here in this circle, she's kind of pulling on that. She's kind of pulling on that a little bit. And so that just shows me there's resistance. She's not thinking about going around in this circle as much. She's thinking about going off and running off somewhere. And so, but we just continue to work on it step by step. We get better control over her body and of their shoulders and their hips, of the rib cage, and we can just help them through a lot of that stuff, where we can get them going in the direction we want them to go. So with her, we've been working on this a stop the same way with we have with Cinco. With her, she's, like I said, she's got a bit more resistance in her, and so I'm going to, I want to pick up and I want her to give and give back to me. Her mind is kind of off somewhere. She's kind of thinking about, like I said, she's thinking about getting up and going somewhere, and so we have to spend a little bit more time with this stuff with her. Cinco's kind of just with you all the time for the most part. So I just want to, we're going to work on this at a standstill. So like I said, the same with Cinco, but I just want to pick up. I want her to get soft to me on both hands. I'm not looking for her to tip her head, to lower her neck, anything like that. I want to feel the softness on both reins at the same time. And so that's that give. It's the opposite of them pushing into that bit or pushing down into that bit or pushing up into that. It's them feeling that pressure and giving to that pressure to where there's no resistance in that at all. So every one of these exercises is going to help. It's just teaches these horses how to get soft and how to use their body. And so we've done that. We'll do it at a walk and trot here. I want to work on getting this walk and trot a lot better. Stopping from the walk and trot a lot better before we add the speed of doing it from a lope. So if something, you're working on an exercise and you don't have it really good at a walk and then a trot, it's not time to step up into that lope. And you'll experience it, if you use your horses when you're day working on your horses, anything like that. It's pretty you'll find that spot to where you had to get up there and stop a cow, or you had to get up there and help sort, or you needed to drag some calves or do whatever, and you found out that with all that speed, your horse didn't do it very good. Well, there's probably some things that you need to work on at home when you're at a walk and a trot, and get that really good, and then practice as much as you can at home for things that you're going to need those horses to do when you're using them, showing them, or whatever. And so all of this stuff, it might be a little slower on these colts, but all this stuff is foundational, because if they're not good at it right now, when you add speed to it, it's really not going to be good. I heard Clinton Ederson talk about it. I was watching a video of his, and it was a really good point he made. I had never heard of it, but it made sense because I was thinking about it with my own horses. He said that a habit, when a horse is going at a high intensity or a high speed and a high stress situation, and that horse learns something in that environment, he said, one or two times of doing that at that high intensity, he says, whatever that is, however that horse did that exercise or performed that maneuver, however he did it, it is burned into his mind. It's seared into his mind a lot more. And he said those habits are a lot harder to get out of a horse, to where they learn something at a high intensity rather than rather than doing it at a low intensity speed and getting really good at it and then going from there. So it made a lot of sense about, especially with colts or green horses where we're using them. I could imagine, especially when we're day working on horses or using them outside or going to the show pen or whatever, and things get really fast, then and it's easy to create some bad habits because that horse is not as that horse is in that high stressful situation and he's not as confident in what he should do or what the right answer is. See right there, it was pretty opposite of what Cinco was doing. So Cinco, you let your feet off and she stops before I even pick up on the reins. But with her, she's not thinking about being back with me a whole lot right now. And so I'm gonna grab, I'm gonna ask her the same way, but I want to make sure that she stops her feet and gets soft before we go somewhere. So right there, she tried to walk off without me asking her. Again, she's just thinking about moving forward. And so I want to keep reinforcing what we're asking her to do until she gives me the right answer. I don't want to quit her when she's thinking about being somewhere else, or when she's stiff, or when she's, I want to quit her just like on the ground right there. If she's giving us the wrong answer, I'm not going to quit her. We're going to quit her in a good spot to where she's in a good frame of mind and she gave us the right answer. See right there was better. Didn't take as long for her to get as soft. Right there, she leaned on that bit. She didn't get off of it. And so I bumped her off of it. And then I asked her softly right there, and she did. She got off of it. She's not being bad. She's young. And mind you, 7 weeks, 6 weeks of riding. Well, there's a lot to process. And so she's doing really well. She's learning, she's figuring it out, she's working through her emotions. She's working on figuring out how to think through the problems and how to give us the right answer. She stopped a little quicker that time. Still not listening to my legs a whole lot, but it'll get better as we go. The more exercises you do to where you're moving their body off of your legs, and the more time that you reinforce that correct behavior, the more it'll click and they'll get used to that stuff. And they'll get to feeling, when I take my legs off, I want them to stop. But I want to give her a chance. I want to take my legs off of her before I pick up on those reins, because that is how I want her to stop. I want her to start coming back to me and stopping when I take my legs off of her. She'll sure enough go with my legs on her, and so she understands that my legs are on her. She just has to get better at thinking about stopping. There. So overall, I'm pleased with how she's progressing. I'm not concerned with, the differences between her and Cinco. I'm not concerned with, you know, her being a bad horse or anything negative like that. There's just differences. And so I'm just, you know, I'm explaining those differences so that y'all can have a better understanding and see the differences between these horses. But we'll continue to work on them. And like I said, the biggest thing is knowing what we're asking them and not quitting that horse in a spot to where they're not giving us the right answer. But when they give us the right answer, we quit them. And so that'll be our review of Whiz for this week. We'll continue to work on these exercises the remainder of this week, and then kind of review and see where we need to progress her for next week. So we'll catch up with you on the next one.